Hello, everyone. Woo, you can hear me now. Welcome. My name's Diana Martin. I'm the executive director here at Hourglass, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's First Friday Forum, which is all about Willow Valley Communities' new Memory Care Center, which will be opening by the end of 2025. One of the reasons we were interested in organizing today's forum is because Lancaster County has an aging population. Over roughly the last decade, the number of people in our community between the age of 60 and 84 has increased 31%, and the population aged 85 and older grew 21%. As Lancaster County ages, it's important for our community to think innovatively about memory loss research, prevention, and care. We're lucky in Lancaster to have a number of local institutions who are really at the forefront of this work. And today, I'm very lucky to be joined by these experts, Lauren Renehan, the incoming executive director of Willow Valley Foundation, and Mary Schreiber, the memory support research coordinator for Willow Valley Communities. They're gonna talk a little bit about what you can expect from Willow Valley's new Memory Care Center, including how it's gonna serve the broader community. This is gonna be a resource not just for residents, but for Lancaster County at large. So that's one of the things we were really excited to talk about today. After their presentation, we'll have some time for questions and thoughts from all of you in the audience. So please keep your questions ready, and thank you so much for being here. Before I hand it over to our speakers, I'd like to thank our First Friday Forum sponsors, Rogers & Associates, who make all of these forums possible. They have signed on again to support this work in 2024, so really excited to have them as our presenting sponsor of the forums. And I'd also like to thank Shoemaker for providing our video and live streaming services today. Yeah, thank you.
Lauren Renehan, I am the incoming executive director of the Willow Valley Communities Charitable Foundation, as you've heard. And we're just delighted to be with you all today to share the latest Willow Valley Communities innovation. So before we do that, it might be helpful for you to have a understanding. So we're gonna put this Memory Care Center project into some context here. So I'm sure you all are familiar with Willow Valley Communities. Willow Valley Communities is a 501c3, 55 plus CCRC located at the southern end of Lancaster. We have 2,600 residents roughly across our 210-acre campuses, 1,400 team members, 400 Smart Life members. Smart Life are members who live in their homes in the community, but they receive the benefit of care when they need it from Willow Valley Communities. We have Connections at Home, which is a home care program, and a growing presence and investment in Lancaster City. Hopefully you all have been to Southern Market and enjoyed that environment and that experience. And then of course you've been introduced to Mosaic, which will be senior living in Lancaster City. Our mission at Willow Valley Communities, we inspire each person to embrace the possibilities of a life lived forward, and we desire to transform the way that aging is viewed and experienced in our world. We're going to talk a little bit about Lancaster. You all are familiar with Lancaster County, of course. We have 32 continuing care communities and care homes across the county. That is an incredibly high number. In Lancaster, the past 5 years running, it has been voted top 5 places to retire in America. And what that means is Lancaster County is already ahead of the curve. We have a higher than average population of older adults. So 65 and older is the number we're talking about here. And with medical advances, we can treat or cure just about anything that goes wrong with the human body. Cancer care and research has advanced. Cardiology care has advanced so much so that we can keep people alive when their bodies are now outliving their minds. And what that means is a higher prevalence of dementia, specifically in Lancaster County, where we have that higher concentration of older adults. And dementia comes with crippling costs and a direct impact on our community. It means higher care costs. It means sandwich generation, people not being able to go to work because now they're caring for their aging parents in addition to caring for their children. It means this strain on our healthcare system where we're trying to find geriatricians and the appropriate practitioners to provide this very specialized care for a population that's growing exponentially. So what do we do to prevent this community from being so ill-prepared that we're just in a crisis a couple years down the road when older adults outnumber American children for the very first time in history. So Willow Valley has come up with a way to prevent this problem from happening, and we're addressing it head on with the introduction of the Memory Care Center. And the Better Way, the seed for the Better Way, was planted back in 2016 when John Swanson, now Willow Valley Development Corp., had his father living in memory care at Willow Valley Communities. So John has been personally touched by dementia, as has everyone working on this project here. And John literally said to himself at that time, there has got to be a better way. The care is great, but there's got to be a better way to do this. So the seed was planted, and that launched a global search for the very best in memory care. And it took one of our team members all the way to the Netherlands, where they met with the director of Hourglass. Hourglass is a memory care village in the Netherlands. It has 100 residents, and really they have been the benchmark for the best care in the world. What it means to care for a person, the actual person, not the medical components, but care for the person. And since then, we and our team have visited over 30 of the best memory care communities in America. We've consulted with Carnegie Mellon, Johns Hopkins, Penn, UPMC, you name it. We've talked to them about it, including experts from Israel, Tasmania, and New York. So with all of this knowledge and the learnings that we have taken into consideration, they've shaped the new mission for Willow Valley Communities, and that is to transform the lives of those affected by dementia, those living with dementia, and those affected and impacted. And what we're really looking for here is a shift in the paradigm. We want to move away from the traditional models of healthcare. And so our original concept was constructed in 2017. And the concept is a small village for people living with dementia. The village idea being taken from Hourglass in the Netherlands originally. And the goal of this village is to provide a normal life for people living with dementia. It's to increase their dignity, foster independence, and improve their quality of life. And the special emphasis is going to be placed on adapting the environment, not adapting the person. Person-directed care, support for those experiencing dementia and their caregivers, education and training, particularly removing the stigma and the barriers associated with receiving care, and prevention efforts. And this memory care center is going to be the very first of its kind. Of all the places we've seen, no one place has combined all of these components to really lift the ships across the board. So we're talking about the best in care, the best in prevention, the best in research and treatment moving forward. And with this original concept, we had this budget, the original budget. And we're going to work from the bottom here. So $50 million to create this world-class memory care center. And Willow Valley Communities, using its traditional business model, said, okay, we can come up with $30 million for this memory care center. And that left that $20 million gap to say, how can we create this center and provide a sustainable model to continue operating this center for the very specialized care that it will provide. So enter philanthropy. And Willow Valley Communities said, you know, if there was ever a time to introduce professional philanthropy at Willow Valley, this was the time to do it. Dementia touches every person, and it really touches people at Willow Valley Communities, that very special population of aging individuals. So with that, the creation of the charitable foundation at Willow Valley Foundation was formed in 2018. It is a separate 501c3 from Willow Valley Communities, and it's set up as a supporting organization. So we at the foundation are the fundraising arm to support the advancement of Willow Valley Communities' mission. And we're responsible for providing the means to give that ongoing training, education, and supportive services and research, not just for Willow Valley Communities, but for the external community as well. Because for Willow Valley to be successful in transforming the way that dementia is experienced, we really need the entire community to be behind this mission. So our first priority at the foundation was the Memory Care Center Capital Campaign, and we called it This is Personal, because raise your hand in this room if you have not been personally touched by dementia. One hand. Okay. So our timeline here, we talked about the concept first being introduced in 2017, and in 2020, the This is Personal Capital campaign was launched, and that had that $20 million goal. $15 million of that was earmarked for capital construction costs, and $5 million minimum dollar endowment for the sustainability of the center. And in December of 2022, that $20 million campaign goal was met. And that launched the next phase of the Memory Care Center project. So moving again through the conceptual phases and into the construction process for our Memory Care Center. In February of this past year, 2023, Nord Architects out of Denmark was selected to be the principal architect for our Memory Care Center. So they were charged with dusting off the plans and really revitalizing the concept of the Memory Care Center, taking into consideration all that we had learned in the 5 years prior to engaging Nord Architects. In April of 2023, they had those refreshed plans ready to go, and at that point, we were in search of our stateside partner who could provide expertise on the very particular U.S. construction code that was foreign to our Danish partners. So in June, EGA, which is an architectural firm out of Boston, was selected to be the stateside partner supporting Nord in the design of the center. In November of this year, our partners, our architects, came to Willow Valley Communities for the very first time. Prior to that, everything had been organized virtually across the Atlantic. So it was very exciting to have them here in person and present to our residents. And as they said, everything was bigger in America. We had 516 residents there in the theater ready to greet them. And then in April of 2024, we're very excited to announce that April 17th will be the date for our groundbreaking ceremony for the Memory Care Center. And we do, as Diana mentioned, anticipate that phase 1 of this project will open late 2025. So with that backdrop, we want to walk you through the Memory Care Center, the new concept for the Memory Care Center at Willow Valley Communities. But as we're going through this, and I'm going to move to help point some things out on the screen, we want you to keep in mind the concepts driving the design of this Memory Care Center. Dementia care is very unique. It's very specialized care, and Nord was very careful as they were designing this center to take into consideration 8 different concepts. So as we're going through this, we really want you to keep in mind that this center should be viewed through the lens of someone living with dementia. The goal is to make this as normal of a village as possible for their benefit. So going through this, just put on your dementia goggles for a second and think about what it's like to have dementia and to wander through this environment. As you know, people with dementia, as they progress in the disease, they develop tunnel vision or binocular vision. So put that lens on and see the environment through that concept as we go through this. So the first principle driving the design is integration. How can the Memory Care Center incorporate all age cohorts of a community? How can we make this a comfortable environment for the people living at the Memory Care Center, which may be in their 60s, maybe they're in their 90s or early hundreds, and comfortable for the team members coming in there every day, comfortable for the families and grandkids and great-grandkids coming in. We want this to be a welcoming environment for them. Exterior environments, how do we gain more green space in the construction of this Memory Care Center, this 7-acre campus? We know that the natural elements are critical in providing the best care possible for residents with dementia. Activities, we want to offer an environment that fosters the opportunity to engage in meaningful activities. So not bingo or things that you might typically do in memory care, but foster activities like gardening that they've always enjoyed, or golf, or pet therapy, things like those. Clarity and consistency. How do we make this environment easily navigable from the perspective of someone who has memory impairment without making it repetitive? Human scale, how do we bring this huge 7-acre campus down to the scale of 1-to-1 so that when a person with dementia is walking through those spaces, they don't feel overwhelmed by the size of this memory care center? Privacy versus community. This is, there will be private residences at this memory care center, but it is also communal living. So trying to strike that harmonious balance between the two. Flexibility. We want the spaces to be interchangeable so that we can work with the space as the population changes and grows over time. But we also want to envision what this memory care center could be if not a memory care center. When there's a cure for dementia, what will this space become? And finally, the sensory environment. How do we engage all 5 senses at the same time without overstimulating the person living with the memory loss? So taking all of that into consideration, we have come up with the concept for the memory care center. And there are really 3 components to this memory care center. At the top of the screen, you have the northern neighborhood. In the middle, you have the common amenities, what we're calling the town center, or the commons building. And in the lower part of your screen, you have the southern neighborhood. And this 7-acre campus is situated on our Lakes campus at Willow Valley, if you're familiar with the Lakes campus, in our South Point village there. Okay, flipping your view or your perspective for just a minute here. To the left of your screen, you're now seeing the southern neighborhood, the commons building in the middle, and the northern neighborhood on the far right of your screen. And we want to point out just a few things as we go through these renderings. Nord Architects was masterful in dropping little wayfinding clues throughout the 7-acre campus to make this space really navigable for the people living there. So what you'll see, the right versus the left side of the screen, are the different colors in vegetation. Little components like that were taken into consideration here. The fencing is represented by those dark green dotted lines that you see toward the top half of the screen. That will be the only fencing on the perimeter, but it will actually be things like thatched branches and live hedges that prevent people from leaving that 7-acre campus. And the rest of the perimeter is created through the households themselves. The tan loop that goes through the neighborhoods, the northern and the southern neighborhood, and actually crosses through the main building is called our infinity loop. And residents will have the opportunity to walk outside their house whenever they want to. Maybe it's cold and we encourage them to put a coat on, but they go outside their household and they can roam the 7 acres at their own will, and they can do so by way of the infinity walking loop here. We're going to take a closer look at the northern neighborhood quickly, and you'll see that the households are L-shaped. And what that does is it lets a resident enter their house on one end, and they do not have to figure out how to turn around and re-exit the household. They can continue from one end of the household to the other. And it also helps to create that border. One other thing it does is it allows residents to all have a garden view from their private bedrooms, and the common amenities of the household, your typical household amenities, are focused on the courtyard. So we want people to be able to see what's going on in those courtyards, and that would encourage them to get up and get moving and get out of their households. In the northern neighborhood, you'll notice that the central feature is the meditations room. And here is a look at that northern courtyard there. The meditation room being the circular building on the far right of your screen. The households in the neighborhood, the northern neighborhood, are going to be a grayish color. In the back, you'll see that reddish clay facade, and that represents the buildings of the Commons building or town center. And in the southern neighborhood, you'll notice that the households are white, again helping with the wayfinding for our residents. You will also see that pond. That's new for memory care. Where else in America do you see a pond on a memory care campus? But you'll notice that there is a faint fence right up against the edge of that border of the pond there. Looking at the southern neighborhood, we want to point out that infinity loop. Remember, our infinity walking loop goes to both campuses and through the Commons building. And as it loops between these two households and comes toward the southern end of the campus, you'll notice that there is a play area for children, sitting benches. It goes around through the birch trees, the berries, and basketball. Again, we really want to be inviting families back into the care team, and this is one way that we can do that. The central focus of the southern neighborhood is the greenhouse located right in the middle here, and the courtyard is filled with fruit trees and edible flowers, things that are safe for residents with dementia. On the corner of this infinity walking loop, you'll notice there's the club room. And the club room is almost like a storefront. There will be activities that are highlighted in the windows of that club room that will really draw people into this space. So as they're walking that loop, they might be enticed to go into that club room. And the club rooms are places for 12 to 15 residents to engage in small group activities. You'll also notice barbecue areas. There's one in the southern neighborhood and one in the northern neighborhood. Again, inviting families back into the environment and the day-to-day routine. We want them to come here for Father's Day. We want them to come here for Labor Day or 4th of July cookouts with their families. On the left side of the screen, you'll notice the thatched branches and live hedges we referenced for the fencing on the campus. And here is a rendering of that southern neighborhood. So that infinity walking loop passes between these two households here, loops around that far household and comes back in between the two buildings. Another little wayfinding clue, the households on the southern neighborhood have circular windows on the end, while the households in the northern neighborhood have square windows on the ends. And taking a look, this showed you that circular versus square windows there. And now we're looking at the households. So we mentioned that the households have been broken out of that traditional rectangular shape into an L shape so that they can pass through one end of the household into the next. And we're looking at the common amenities here. Remember that those are facing toward the courtyard so that people are encouraged to get up and get moving out of their household. As you come into the household, there are two entrances. We have 3 buildings in each neighborhood, and each building has 2 stories representing one household each. So the first floor is a household of 10 residents. The second floor is another household of 10 residents, and each of those households have their own entrance into their home. So a different colored door, a different gable on top of each, again with the wayfinding clues to help them identify their house. And as they come in, they're greeted by the kitchen right here on the end, family-style dining, a living room. Moving up, there's an office where the nurse may work out of the office, but more like a home office. So again, being a normal element in a home. A library and a den. Some of our households in this top left corner, you'll notice, are a little bit bigger, and that represents a couple's room in the event that both parties or spouses are exhibiting symptoms of dementia. And there are 10 private rooms per household. Common facilities such as laundry, restrooms for when staff and family come to visit, and then a balcony over here. So second floor has balconies, and the first floor dwellers will be able to actually exit their household right out into a patio that progresses into the courtyard. And taking a closer look at the private rooms, every room at the Memory Care Center will be private room. And it's about 275 square feet per room. So every room has a little niche right before coming into their room to help them self-identify which room is theirs, a place to put knickknacks and pictures, but pictures of them from their 20s and 30s, not pictures from their 90th birthday where they may not recognize themselves. And as they come into the room, they'll have a closet space, a typical living area, a low windowsill, so as they become more bedbound as the disease progresses, they're still able to have the elements of nature incorporated into their room as much as possible. And very important, they'll have direct access to the bathroom right from their bed. I know I'm a little groggy when I wake in the middle of the night to use the restroom, and they are too. So they will be able to see that restroom right from their bed when they wake in the middle of the night. And this dotted line above the bed represents something special, and that is a lift track. A lift track is going to help us as residents progress and become physically enabled to help them receive the care that they need. And what that does is it cuts down, by having this in every room, it cuts down on the time it takes for a nurse to respond to care, because we no longer have to use a manual lift, moving it from one room to the next. But it also preserves the dignity of the person living there. So in the corner of every room is a little closet that houses that lift. So when people are coming in to visit, it's discreetly hidden, but available when the nurse needs to help that person. We want to walk through the Commons building next, and this is a view of the Commons building from the east. So this, the lower section of the building right here, where it's all glass, first and second story, is the main entrance to the Memory Care Center. And we'll point out that down to the left here is the main entrance for the adult day center that will be housed at the Memory Care Center. And another view looking from the southern neighborhood at the Commons building. Imagine being on that infinity walking loop and you want to enter that Commons building, and you'll do so through that 2-story glass right there. And the fact that it is glass appears to be an unobstructed entrance into the Commons building for someone with dementia. And entering into that Commons building, you'll be in our town square. And the town square really houses our common amenities, the real attractions of the Memory Care Center. So walking into that space, you will be greeted as such with a performance stage, a grocery store, which has an ice cream shop and bakery, a Willow Valley salon, and a bistro on the end for residents and others to dine at the Memory Care Center. On the second story of the Commons building, there are 2 households located within the Commons building itself. And you'll notice that the flooring is a little bit different here, and that denotes that that infinity walking loop passes right through the building. But just take a note for a minute of all the natural light just infiltrating that space. It really helps folks living with dementia, especially as keeping their circadian rhythm in check becomes extremely difficult as the disease progresses. Now we're going to look at the community amenities, spaces that are not part of the secure environment of the Memory Care Center, but are open to the public. So very important for you all to know and to become familiar with. Upon entering the main entrance of the Memory Care Center to the left, you'll see the Brain Tech Center. And the Brain Tech Center is something that is going to house virtual reality and brain games for prevention and opportunities to sign up for research and clinical trials. A place where we're really focused on educating the community about dementia and giving them the tools they need to set themselves up for success, to prevent dementia for as long as possible. And then entering the Commons building or through the main entrance, to the right, you'll be in the Brain Cafe. For anybody who's been to Willow Valley Communities, maybe to our Vitality Cafe at the Cultural Center, the Brain Cafe will be similar. About 75 seats for anybody to come in and get a brain healthy meal. So we will serve only brain healthy food. The good news for you is that red wine and dark chocolate are included on the brain healthy foods list. So this is a look at that Brain Cafe as you come into the Commons building. Now around the back to the left of this Brain Cafe, you'll enter into the resource space, the resource center. The resource center is something that we do have on campus now at Willow Valley Communities, but this will be exponential for that space. And the Resource Center is a place where people who are maybe experiencing dementia, recently diagnosed, or caregivers or family friends and neighbors want to come and ask a question. So this is a place where a volunteer or a clinical person would be staffing that resource center and available to provide guidance. Maybe the question is, my husband has dementia, where can I take him to get evaluated? Or I'm thinking we need to take the next step in a level of care change. What are my options? And they come and they ask those questions here in the resource room. Now above the Brain Cafe in the resource room is something very special, and that is our assessment center. The assessment center is going to bring something just pivotal for Lancaster community. The assessment center is a place where neurologists, neuropsychologists, geriatric clinicians, research clinicians are all housed as part of our clinical partner space, and people can, from the outside community, can get a referral from their primary care physician and come for evaluation at the Memory Care Center. It's a place where we plan to offer the best assessments possible, the best treatments possible, making this just increasingly accessible to the greater community so that people can find out that they may have mild cognitive impairment earlier in the process, and then have the opportunity and education to do something with that diagnosis before it progresses to dementia. So soon you will find out who our clinical partner is going to be in this space. And it's difficult to see in this, but the assessment center has a training and lecture space, some meeting rooms, 5 consultation rooms, and a research lab. It also has a very special little place for caregivers. So as you're bringing your loved one in for an assessment or for treatment, you have a little bit of a respite for that 1 or 2 hour visit. And this is a rendering of that clinical space. So coming up to the 2nd floor and stepping off the elevator, this is the lecture space, and going into the consultation rooms that you'll see there. Above that lecture space, or above that assessment space, is Willow Valley Workspace. And we're moving away from siloed departments and more toward a community of team members that work together to solve problems, where everybody knows everything about the resident. You don't have to go to just nursing or just the social worker to find out the information you want. So a few items in development, just to bring you up to speed and keep you abreast of what Willow Valley is working on. We do have that clinical partnership, which will soon be announced. That will be the clinical partner in the assessment space of the Memory Care Center, where we do plan to have training available to the greater community. Maybe that's a place where all CCRCs in Lancaster County can bring their team members for education. We are trialing the latest technologies related to memory care specifically, and we're excited to share those with you. Some things that we're looking at now are monitors that go on the wall that detect motion of a resident. It is not a video camera, but it is rapid image capturing. So we can learn how to prevent falls, or we can learn a resident's preferences and make their home environment sort of successful to what is most meaningful to them. So maybe, you know, the motion detector detects light at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it flicks the bathroom light on very slowly for the person to do what they need to do. Research opportunities, we are looking to partner with researchers at Carnegie Mellon University. We engaged them a few years back to talk about music therapy, the benefits of music therapy, the impact that it has on residents with dementia, and we continue to engage with Carnegie Mellon as we move forward here, particularly as it relates to technology. And we intend to bolster support for caregivers. And I want to turn it over to Mary at this time. Mary's our Memory Support Resource Coordinator, and she is spearheading the education and training efforts and the support that's available at Willow Valley. So with that, we'll invite you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Is it on? Okay. All right. Well, we all look forward to late 2025. But the question is, what can we be doing now? And an important part of that piece is education about dementia. We're currently using a training model based on the Alzheimer's Association best practice habilitation therapy. They had, based on the 2018 dementia care recommendations, habilitation therapy focuses on maintaining abilities. It looks at a person's strengths. We don't focus on losses, we focus on what remains. We began with team members, and we have an 8-hour training session for direct care staff, 4-hour training for all ancillary staff. So our goal really, really is to involve every team member in some kind of dementia training. And we note that our housekeeping team is probably the most invested group in learning more about best practice with dementia. Moved on then to volunteers, and learned very quickly that a 2-hour dementia training for volunteers was not enough. As a matter of fact, I can say they demanded more. So that has led to us forming a memory care forum. So we are now meeting once a month with volunteers to discuss a variety of topics. And I've learned that our volunteers, it's a very wise group. They bring a lot of expertise, and this has become something that has just really taken off. Didn't see this coming, but just appreciative of our volunteers wanting to be so invested, and they are so eager and look so forward to our Memory Care Center opening. Our goal is to, in the new year, expand our training to campus volunteers, family and friends, and open trainings to the community. And we're also looking to revise our curriculum in the new year. When we talk about person-centered dementia care, we do review information understanding dementia. We talk about the sadness that this is an irreversible progressive brain disease that is fatal, and recognize how hard this is on family, friends, and caregivers. We talk about types of dementia, we talk about stages, but we don't focus a lot on that information. We really move on to what is practical and what our positive approaches can be. As mentioned earlier, it's with our team members and volunteers, it's a rare life that has not been touched about dementia. And interesting, one of the most important things we talk about early on is what is normal aging versus dementia. So for those that go into the kitchen and forget why they went in, or you're not sure where you parked your car, you're okay. It probably means you're multitasking, you have a bit of stress in your life. But if you do notice changes in your daily activity, or someone around you is noticing some changes, we just recommend that you seek out your medical provider to learn more. We talk a lot about the person, what was important to the person and what is important to the person. We want to know as much as we can about these individuals, and we strive very hard to make this happen. We talk a lot about how to best communicate with someone with dementia. Lauren, you talked about how their field of vision narrows. So we know that we want to approach someone from the front when we're talking to them. We want to be at their eye level. We want to speak in shorter phrases. We want to take time to listen. We want to know what it's going to take to connect with somebody, and that also gets back to what do we know about the person. And so much of how we support someone is built on that positive relationship. We talk quite a bit about engagement. My background is as a recreation therapist, and for my entire career, I've promoted the importance of recreation and leisure as a part of a healthy wellness lifestyle. And that has not changed. We really want to continue to promote our engagement. We look at domains of physical, social, cognitive, and spiritual engagement opportunities. And we do look beyond our traditional, what we think of activities. So we are using virtual reality for individuals with dementia. We know music and nature really connect with people. And yes, if someone wants to play bingo, we will be playing bingo. We also look at simple pleasures, those small things that may bring meaning and purpose. So it could be as simple as a cup of coffee, or knowing someone's flavor of herbal tea. Do they want to be in the sunshine? Do they want to walk in the snow? And music is so critical, but it's a music preference, because if someone hears music that they may not exactly enjoy, that might have some adverse effects. So again, we try very hard to know what type of music is really significant for someone. We know that behavior is communication, and often related to unmet needs. So if someone is wandering, we're going to look for the reason, and maybe it's someone who always led a very physical lifestyle. So we are going to look for those opportunities for someone to take a walk. If someone asks to go home, we're going to find the meaning of home for that person. It may not be a physical street address. It may be an area that just brings comfort to that person. If someone's agitated, it might just mean there's too much going on in the environment. We know someone can be overstimulated so easily. And I will just say on a personal note, I went out to eat last night in a very crowded, noisy restaurant, and had trouble hearing the people across the table. We were trying to talk to each other. And again, it just gets back to trying to start taking in the world through the eyes of someone with dementia. And I know someone in that environment last night would have really had a hard time. We talk in our team member trainings about how we can best support families. They are caregivers to individuals, but we look at who they are connected to, and knowing that families have their own realizations when it comes to dementia. So again, our team members are very connected, supporting families. And we also remind our team members that healthcare can be a tough profession, and what can they do for self-care? So we go into some detail. Take care of yourself first. We also talk about dementia prevention. A lot of self-care ties in with some of the strategies of dementia prevention. We're now learning that over 40% of dementia can be prevented by healthy lifestyle practices, very similar to heart health. So eat fruits and vegetables, get a good night's sleep, work some exercise into your day, do your cognitive exercises. All that contributes to your heart health, but we're also learning more that it's really good brain health as well. We very much want to focus on our caregivers. We do run caregiver support groups. We are affiliated with the Alzheimer's Association, and just having that supportive environment for spouses, siblings, friends who have loved ones going through memory loss. We do have someone from the memory care team as a facilitator. That's often the role I am in. And we use volunteer facilitators as well, and we have all taken facilitator training through the Alzheimer's Association. Those support groups are open to the community, so we welcome anyone who would like to be part of those groups. We knew the need was there, the need was real. Started with one group, we've now expanded to 2 monthly groups that people are welcome to attend. We initiated a program called a Memory Cafe, and this is not new to Willow Valley. This is actually an international program that's been in place for over 25 years. And the idea behind a Memory Cafe, creating a very safe, welcoming environment for both caregiver and the person with dementia. We serve refreshments. You don't have to RSVP. You just show up. And different memory cafes have different types of programs. Some will have a guest speaker, maybe a music program. We observed what was happening when we started a memory cafe, and there was this wonderful buzz in the room. People came and they were interacting with each other. I put some word searches on the table. They were doing those and sharing answers. But just coming together seemed to be so significant for this group that I was not about to interrupt and have a program when they were doing something that just came so naturally. Now, about 20 minutes in, I will take a break. I do provide a bit of a program. We do some brain activities, some brain fun, but then get back to socializing with everyone. And it's just been such an incredible experience. And I will say we have just learned from the people who are coming to our memory cafe, to listen and to see what they want. And probably the biggest observation is you look at this group, you don't know who has dementia. One gentleman came one time and he kind of stopped at the door and asked if it was okay if he could come in. He and his wife had been there before, and his wife wasn't feeling that well, so she wasn't with him, and he wanted to know if he could still come because he enjoyed it so much. So we are just open to having, again, anyone from the community join us for this program. We talk about dementia-friendly environments, and this is something that it's so exciting to see has been built into our new memory care center. But these are concepts that can be expanded to the community. As I mentioned last night, I was in a really noisy restaurant. Well, there are restaurants that sometimes open their doors at 4 o'clock for individuals and their care partners to come and dine in a quiet environment. They may also provide a menu that isn't pages of a book. It might be just one page in large print, something easy to read. I know of a church service, a church that offers a dementia-friendly service That's about 30 minutes in length, and music is such a big part of it, and the minister talks for maybe 10 minutes, more in a storytelling way, and again, meeting people where they're at. So all aspects of the community can really play a role in working together to create these welcoming environments for people. I would encourage you, there are organizations promoting dementia-friendly environments, and I have their contact information here, but look for Dementia Friendly America. There is Dementia Friendly Pennsylvania, lots and lots of wonderful resources available on these websites. And you talked about wayfinding. Actually, I have to thank you, because when I came in the door here, I was greeted by a sign for Hourglass pointing me in the right direction. And there were signs along the way, and those may seem like something small efforts, but boy, for someone with any memory impairments, they really, really do make a difference. So thank you for your signage. Are you guys ready for some audience questions? Yeah. Sure.
Thank you so much, Lauren and Mary, for all of your expertise. And I feel like this project is another, it's my fault it's not turned on. Okay, I promised them I would turn it back on. So yeah, I feel like this project is another great example of really Lancaster County leading the way in the nation for innovation. And this is going to serve as a great model for our community, but really the first of its kind in the U.S. So appreciate you all being here to learn about it, and I'm sure people have some questions and comments. I saw you raise your hand first, and we'll circulate this around.
Thank you very much. Very interesting program. Thanks for what you're doing for the community. Just a couple questions. Of the $20 million, what % was raised from your residents at Willow Valley? Because I heard that they were very generous. And then with the Dementia Center itself, how far does someone have to be progressed in order to actually get into the memory care center? And then I'm just curious what you're charging for that as well.
Yeah, great question. So of the $20 million goal, probably 93% of that was raised internally from residents, and that was intentional. They all have huge stake in the game. They want this for their community, and so they supported it to the fullest. And now we're about $22 million raised on a $20 million initial capital campaign goal. And now we're at the point where we're going to the external community and saying, we're going to have this remarkable resource. Do you also want to be part of it? So as far as progression of dementia and how far progressed do you need to be to move in and take residence at the memory care center, there are two schools of thought on this. One is we want residents to move in sooner in the process or sooner in the progression of dementia. And the reason is that it provides them the opportunity to learn the environment and the people and the places before they decline to a point where they're no longer able to grasp and retain new information. So that would be a benefit to move in sooner. We also know that there is an appropriate place or appropriate time in the progression of disease to move someone, and we want them to be safe in their environment. And if that means keeping them in their home environment longer because that's where they're going to be safe longer, they know that environment, they're familiar with everything, all aspects of their daily routine, that may influence the time frame as to when to move them into the memory care center. But the earlier in the process, the better. But we do need to say that this person would benefit from a secure environment because it is that. We don't want to put anybody in a secure environment if they still have the capacity to engage with the external community in a safe manner. Does that answer your question? The cost of living there. For Willow Valley residents, Willow Valley Communities is a life care type A contract, which means as you progress through different levels of care, your monthly service fee does not increase due to the level of care you're receiving. So for Willow Valley community residents, there would be no increased cost for them, even though they all would have a private room at the memory care center. We will offer the opportunity for what we call private pay residents as we move forward, just as Willow Valley Communities does now. If we have an open room in personal care or skilled care, people can enter Willow Valley on a private pay or per diem basis, and that would be an opportunity. I do not yet know what that cost may be.
Mm-hmm. Other questions, comments? I think I saw a hand over here.
it's a cycling question. Surprise. I'm just curious if the folks in the Netherlands and your Danish folks had anything to say about a program called Cycling Without Age, and if that's something that you're thinking about including, if they did say anything about it, and if they did not, I would love to talk to you about including something like that.
We would love to talk about it, and I will tell you, I don't know actually that they mentioned it, but in Hourglass, the dementia village in the Netherlands, we have seen the tandem bikes where one person is seated, the other person cycles, or they're both able to cycle to some degree. So that is something Mary's looking into as well. Yes.
Everyone's making me walk as far as possible. Here you go, Brian. Yes, Brian help.
I'm curious if you're familiar with a Japanese restaurant. I think it's called the Mistaken
the restaurant of mistaken orders.
Yes,
yes. We were joking about this with residents because everybody saw the article and everybody emailed it to us within like 10 minutes of that article being published. And our residents are fabulous at keeping current with the latest trends and articles. So we did hear about this, and Brian's talking about an article about a restaurant in Japan where the servers all have dementia. So you go into the restaurant, you order something, the server brings it back, and they're like, well, I don't know if this is what you ordered, but do you want it? And in America, that's part of changing the stigma and the thought process. That seems a little demoralizing, but it's not. In Japan, they're having wild success with it. The people who are the servers with dementia are finding dignity and meaning in delivering this service and being hospitable to these people who aren't judging them for bringing the wrong order. So yes, we did see that, and we're really yeah, good. We have the bistro, so the bistro is where you want to be. Eat at the Brain Cafe, get your wine at Brain Cafe, and then come into the bistro. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Did you also hear, while we're on this topic, there was a continuing care community, and memory care specifically, and what they did was they created this project where the residents each worked with a staff member to recreate their childhood favorite meal. So you had somebody made like schnitzel, somebody had Irish soda bread, and all of these things that had been influenced by their culture and family traditions, and they all brought their meal with their caregiver who helped them prepare it and prepare the recipe card to the best of their recollection to this potluck. And they get to this potluck, and the woman who, she had made this gumbo, and she had raved about it and just harked on getting the recipe correct. She gets to the potluck, and she's like, why do we bring gumbo? I don't like gumbo. I've never eaten gumbo in my life. But to the same effect there, yes. Yeah, that would be very fun to do.
So this vision that you present, it's like, to me, it's not just, a really nice memory care place. It's really a different world from, the kind of care that I think a lot of us have seen our loved ones get, they're in a hospital setting, parked in front of a TV for 3 years, right? And that to me is a whole industry that's really ripe for, game-changing vision like this. To what extent do you see this as, or do you have any plans to kind of make this part of, ongoing research within the industry, not only on the academic side, but also to say, all right, there's all these other communities within Lancaster and within Pennsylvania and the country, like, let's use this to push them up.
Yeah. Great thought. And that is our thought, to use this as a platform for introducing the best concepts in memory care, creating those best practices, and then providing like a little deliverable package that other CCRCs in Lancaster or elsewhere can replicate. And maybe they can't incorporate all of the aspects that we're incorporating at the Memory Care Center, but they can take bits and pieces. And we've seen pieces of that already in smaller CCRCs where they've created a little mini grocery store. In fact, we have one at the Glen on our campus. This one resident always likes to buy candy. He always went down to the corner store. Now he goes down to our clinical manager's office and hands a $1 bill and gets a couple pieces of candy, and we just recirculate the same dollar every week. But yes, we intend that people would take aspects of this. We would invite them in to tour and to learn and be part of the education and growth of the Memory Care Center, and then help them take those best practices and employ them in their workplace. Yeah. Great.
My mom was in a continuing care retirement community here in Lancaster. Great care. But back 8 years ago when we entered her into that, and she has since passed away, unfortunately, 2 years ago with Alzheimer's. But when we moved her in there, she was in a state of denial, and it was very difficult as a caregiver, trying to convince my mom that she did have Alzheimer's. But so it sounds like what this plan is almost like a CCRC for memory care patients. I mean, because my mom started in the assisted living, and then she went into memory care, and then she went into skilled care. Is that pretty much the design of this? Is going to be like you want them entered in pretty much as soon as possible into this memory care?
This is a little bit different in that I'm going to bet your mom was in personal care. And personal care, people do progress from a higher level of physical ability to skilled care as their physical abilities and cognitive abilities decline. And this memory care center will actually be licensed as assisted living. We don't have that in most places, not in Lancaster County. We don't have it at Willow Valley so far. But what it means is that it allows residents to age in place. So they can move in and they don't have to move to a different room or a different unit as the disease progresses. And moving one step back from that aspect of progression in level of care, we do see the memory care center as a sort of stepping stone path for people. So they become familiar with the memory care center through dining, through visiting friends and volunteering at the memory care center, and they're acquainted with the environment. And then maybe they start experiencing memory impairment, and so they get a referral from their PCP, they go over to the assessment center. It's in a comfortable place that they've been to before, and they can dine downstairs. So it's palatable. And then with that diagnosis, they start coming to support groups. And as they progress, they go and become a client of the adult day center. And maybe we have 2 respite rooms at the memory care center. Maybe we trial. Maybe we move them in for a couple of weeks and see what it's like. Maybe their spouse takes a European vacation while we get the chance to know them here before they move in and take permanent residency at the memory care center. So we see it in that regard, and we're putting a lot of faith in that aspect of the memory care centers that it becomes comfortable. Willow Valley is no exception. We see dementia being stigmatized all the time, and residents, they joke about it, and it's not funny, but there are locked doors. Well, I don't want to know what goes on behind those doors. I'm never going to need it. It's there if I do, but I'm never going to need it. And so the day comes to move them in, they're literally kicking and screaming. We could probably count the times that we've been beaten up in the lobby, but if we make this more approachable and change that stigma, we're going to have a much more favorable environment when it comes time to move people in. That's what we're hoping for.
Well, we are at time for today, so thank you so much, Lauren and Mary, for joining us and all the great information about the Memory Care Center. We will have the PowerPoint slides as well as the video of today's talk on our website, so feel free to share that with other folks from the community who would benefit. You can find that at hourglasslancaster.org. I hope you all have a lovely holiday season and you're getting ready for 2024. We will see you all back here on Friday, January 5th for our next First Friday Forum. We'll be back in our normal space, the bins room, if that means anything to you. If not, we'll have all of our wayfinding signage. I feel like I'm a Ware Center tour guide at this point. And we will be talking with the Lancaster County Commissioners at that forum. So hope to see you there. If you want to get invites to all of our events, please become an Hourglass member, and you can do that on our website. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend, and we'll see you in the new year.